Well, hey there, and welcome to a special live stream here at Homer Games on a Monday. And I'm thrilled today to be joined by the titans that they are from Google, Thomas and Cyprien. So, welcome to the stream, guys. How you doing?
Cool, thank you. Be excited.
Awesome. So, what I think we should do first is we've got some great stuff to cover today, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us exactly who you are and what you do. So, Thomas, if we could start with you, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. So I'm Thomas. I'm from Google technical teams in France. I'm based in Paris, and I'm a solution engineer. So what does that mean? Basically, I help our customers get the best out of our product from a technical perspective. So I help on implementation and designing more specific and custom solution for our customers. And I focus mostly on ad monetization with publishers.
Awesome. And how about you, Cyprian? Oh, it seems to be muted. Let me just see.
My bad. Sorry.
No,
So
that's
I'm
all right.
Cyprien. I'm based in Dublin, working for Admob team, supporting and helping publisher in France and Germany in their monetization.
Perfect. So, really thrilled you could join us today, and thank you. And I know you've got you got a presentation, a couple of presentations, sort of back to back here lined up for us. So, I'm really looking forward to all the stuff that you've got going on. So, I think without further delay, if I could hand over to you, Cyprian, first, and we can get going.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. So yes, today you will learn how to grow your game with Admob, and today you will learn first how to efficiently monetize your game, then how to optimize your game for monetization, and then Thomas, you will learn how to implement Firebase and test your game implementation. So let's start first with Admob. What is Admob? What does it does? So Admob has a lot of different functions, but the main one is related to monetizing your game or your application. So it connects Admob with your game with ad network, and it has within this tool a lot of functionality. We will see most of it, not all of it. If you are interested in the topic mentioned here in gray, I can discuss a bit more on the Discord chat after the live or during Q&A. So let's start first with how to efficiently monetize a game with Admob. Admob, as I said, is connecting the Google demand to your game, so you earn revenue. But it's not only limited to this. To make it very simple, it can connect to different demand source, different networks, such as the one of Facebook, Vangle, AppLovin, or multiple network. Then the idea of Admob is to make everything simple and straightforward, so you can focus into your game and developing your game itself, and spend less time into um, the monetization itself on your game. And this is the final goal, is to grow your business and help you to identify how you can improve your game or app related to monetization. So Admob itself, the main function is it's a mediation. What is a mediation? It's a way to connect different ad network to your game or application. So your game, when it make requests for an ad, instead of having only one network to show the ad and one source of revenue, with Admob you will connect different network, And some network based on seasonality or a lot of different parameters, they will perform better or worse than other networks. So the idea of a mediation is always to pick the best one. And for this, you have two different type of mediation. You have the waterfall mediation, which is you asking network by network to provide an estimation of the revenue for an ad. And then based on the order you picked and the result, you will get the best one. The main way now is related to real-time data and bidding. So bidding is working now something like an auction. So all network are bidding on your ad request, and the one that brings the most revenue will be selected and be shown in your application, and you will optimize your revenue just with bidding. So it's very good because it's very straightforward. You don't have to choose which network to call first, like a waterfall. You just select the network you want to be connected with. And once you selected all the network you want to work with, bidding will just show the most efficient network for you. So, and then to grow further your business, Admob is providing report that you can adjust based on your need, understand what is happening in your monetization part, and make business decision or change your game based on your performance for monetization. Then a functionality for Admob is if you want to grow even further, you have multiple application. You can make them promoting one to another. So one of the idea of Admob is if you have a new game you want to push and move your user from an older game to the new one, you can use Admob campaign to promote your game directly from your older game. It has the benefit of having no cost, and if the network doesn't provide enough money, you can redirect to one of your own advertisement or user acquisition campaign to show the ad for you instead of from a different network. So how to optimize your game for monetization? We'll start first with hybrid monetization. The idea is to consider both in-app purchases and ads revenue for your monetization. On average, we saw that an application has 96% of users that will not spend on in-app purchases. So based on this conclusion, we think that the best is to promote both ads revenue and in-app purchases. So you can adjust and show the user what is looking for. So if the user is looking for a freemium game and is not willing to get to pay for in-app purchases, we have a tool called Smart Segmentation, and Smart Segmentation uses machine learning to provide changing the user experience based on what is predicted behavior. So if it's predicted to be non-purchaser, it will see ads just like a freemium game. And if it is predicted as potential purchaser, it will see less ads, increasing the retention and your revenue from in-app purchases. So at Admob, for some publisher, we are doing some user UX review. And just as an example of what we are promoting is adding ad-free option. So in a real-world situation, we recommend that you always bring the option for the user to pay for removing the ads. So it increases the acceptance of having ads, and understand that if they are seeing ads, it's because the game is free and the publisher or the studio needs to get money from their games. Then, in always related to the control you have related to your app experience, you always have control on what you are showing in terms of ads within your game. So you have different tools for this. There is a common system called app ads text that prevents you from inventory spoofing, that allows you to filter also the ads that are compliant or not. And you have also an ad review center, which is enabling you to remove or block certain type of ads you don't want to see in your game. So that's it for the control in terms of from where the ads are coming from, and if you want to show the ads or not. Let's jump into the formats type. We have two different categories. The one that are called traditional formats that are available everywhere and quite common today. We have the banner, where interstitial, which is a full screen video that is usually appearing after a level or after a certain time that you define. We have rewarded ads, that is showing ads in exchange for bonus or something else from the application. So it's some kind of a deal you are making for your user. If you watch this ad, you will get this bonus. And then we have native ads, that is adjusting the certain the type of banner that is adjusting to the style of your game. And then related to more the other category, we have the new formats. And for the formats, we have adaptive banner, reward and interstitial, app open, and full screen native. So for the new formats, there are most of them only available on Admob tool. And I will deep dive a bit more on what is this new format. So in terms of formats for adaptive banner, it's very similar to banner, but because we have in this smartphone industry a lot of different sides of phone and a lot of different sides of smartphone, the idea of adaptive banner is to always adjust so we can see the banner with the best sides possible based on the screen that you are on, any screen that we have on the smartphone. So we see that it's just improved banner compared to the traditional format. Then we have rewarded interstitial, which is a bit similar than rewarded ads, but the idea is, instead of giving the option to for the user to watch an ad in exchange for a bonus, is giving the user a chance not to watch the ad and miss the bonus. So the main difference is, for rewarded, you have an opt-in rule, and for the rewarded interstitial, you have an opt-out rule. So this is really good for any games where you can, as you can see in this example, where you have an event where you can give a bonus to, for example, continue the level the user is playing at. So it's very an additional option to change the user experience for some very specific rewarded type. Then we have app open. The idea of app open is, if you have a game that is taking some time to load, you can put the ad so the user don't have to, instead of just waiting for the app to load, he will see an ad and then it won't interrupt his experience after that, because you are showing the ad before the user is playing and during the moment the app is loading. So we are seeing quite good performance for this type of ad, even if it seems a bit unusual to show an ad before the user can access the game. Then, so the idea of this is it gives you potential to adjust and tailor all the experience for your user, but we always recommend to test any change you want to make or any things you want to try with your application. And the best way to do this is with Firebase, because it will help you to manage a lot of things remotely from the tool Firebase. So just to make it a bit simple in terms of relation that we have related to Admob and Firebase, all the revenue from Admob are going to Firebase are linked to Firebase, and all the in-app purchases are linked to Firebase as well through Google Play. So we recommend you to A/B test all the formats that it seemed relevant for you, and put the parameter you want to evaluate, such as revenue, and see the results. Another quick things I want to mention related to tailoring the experience. There is a very great tool on Firebase that is remote config. And remote config allows you also to change the user experience based on criteria that you are defining. So, for example, and we know that some culture are more tolerant to ads. For example, in India or Brazil, there is more tolerance to ads. So you can orient and with remote config show different amount of ads compared to someone in Europe or US. So that's it for me for monetization. Let me know if you have any question.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Excuse me. So yeah, a lot of stuff in there. Thank you so much for all of that. I've took a couple of notes down. There was one stat of 96% of users not ever buying an in-app purchase. We know that to be true in terms of it's a very small percent, but I didn't know 96 was an actual number. Can you expand on how you came to the 96% and the sort of data behind that, or is that like
So overall, 96 is an average. So we will see different ads with different profiles. Some of them will aim only for in-app purchases,
sure?
and it's working well for them. The idea of that we have is to connect all the data that we have related to all the user, what is spent in the Play Store. Is if he has a YouTube subscription, and all this information can allow us to tell if the user is predicted to be a spender or not. And so based on all this, we evaluate that about 96% of users are predicted as non-spender. But for example, for some application I'm working with, we have 20% of predicted spender. So it can be very different from one app to another.
Yeah, got you. It's really, that was really interesting to me because we used Admob a long time ago in my own personal apps, and I haven't looked at the product in such a long time. You've done so much to it since then. I know tech moves fast, but for me, it was just like, oh wow, I wish I had some of this when we were using it. The bidding thing is relatively new, and I think that's really smart. And I like the fact that you can use the waterfall and then run your own campaigns behind that if there's basically a no fill or whatever. I think that's really cool. The other thing that I noted down here, and I wrote it down so So, what is, I know you did explain, but this app open ad, that was quite
Yes.
surprising to me because I thought that was almost going against terms and conditions to show an advert so early. So, can you tell me when you introduced that ad and how are you? Why was that decision made to show an ad basically on the splash screen?
So I think it's quite recent. It's from this year that we started testing this type of format. It's actually an open beta, so we are still trying to work on it and improving it as much as we can. The idea is quite simple. We made the conclusion that there is a loading time at the beginning of the app, and instead of showing just a loading screen, we a bit like an interstitial. Sometimes the goal of interstitial is to show ads during a loading moment for the game, and app open is a way to show an interstitial but still be compliant, so the user understand that is he will get an access to the game, but also that this app open format is very short and only for the moment the game is loading. So it has a bit interstitial has better performance than app open, but app open is adjusted and tailored for this situation when the user is opening
Got you. And do you have then, presumably, do you have any information about how long the average load time is for across your network then? Because that would be super interesting because we
I
obviously want it.
don't have I don't have the information with me. It's and again, like smart segmentation, it will be very different from one app to
Sure.
another. Usually, hyper casual game will load quite fast,
Right.
and more IP oriented game will be a bit load take more time to load,
Yeah.
and it will also depend on the smartphone itself.
Sure.
So if you have a very recent smartphone, it will be quite quick. But overall, what we do is app open, we limit at 5 seconds. So it will be around for 5 seconds on average, I would say.
Okay. So and am I right in thinking it's just impression based then? So there's nothing you can get an impression for it, and even though um, what am I trying to say? So it's yeah, so it's more like impression rather than a click off from that. So it'd be worth putting one in on your splash screen if you've got a slightly longer loading time, and you can earn revenue from a boot up essentially.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Very cool. And one last thing as well, and I will let Thomas jump on here real quick. The other thing was the rewarded interstitial, which is a relatively new one on me as well. The question I have, because I have seen those before, does your tool set allow us to do, because the one that you showed was animated, do you have any tools? What's the sort of format there in terms of the animation? How would someone create that? Do we upload a video and you create
So
something from it or what?
you just have to show a pop-up, or I can take the whole screen, or anything that shows you will get an ad if you don't opt out, and then and explain also what you can get in exchange, and then it shows a 5 second interstitial in the same way app open does, because
Okay,
it's opt out. The user uh, doesn't opt in doesn't accept to see the ad. He has to refuse it. So in exchange, we are reducing the time for the ad. So it's for smaller reward. And in terms of implementation, you can put a countdown, you can put anything that is just explaining the user that he will see an ad in exchange for this bonus. So it's
got you,
very similar than any rewarded. It's just that it will be triggered by an event.
got you. Perfect. Well, thank you. Sorry, and thanks for humouring me on those somewhat silly questions. But like I said, we used to use it a lot, and it was a great product. And I just it's just like, oh wow, there's loads of stuff. Not even mentioning like the AI you've got going on to determine what essentially whales and non-spenders. It blows my brain. Listen, I think at this point, let's move on to Thomas talking about how you connect all the AdMob over to Firebase to make sure you're getting all of that data in there quickly. So I will pass over to you now, Thomas, and let's do that.
Thank you. Uh, yeah, as a matter of fact, I actually share your excitement about the product and the recent evolutions that we had. I joined Google like 3 years and a half ago, and since then the product has evolved so much. It's really exciting to see, and especially the connection between AdMob and Firebase has started to develop and grow. And there are plenty of very interesting and powerful use case that you can achieve by blending the two products. And today I'm going to try to show you a glimpse of it, of all this power that you can reach with the two products. So we're going to just take a step back and really understand how you would go about implementing a simple ad within an app. So in this part, I will be a bit more hands-on and showing like lines of code and configuration files. I will go very quick on the specificities and technicalities because the goal is not really to give you a coding lesson, but the message I want to convey today is really that it's really simple to get access to the powerful features. You just need to go through initial steps, and then you get access to all the nice features, and you can really think of there in terms of user experience and business value. So let's say you want to implement an ad within your app. So as all mobile stories, it all starts with an SDK. So our SDK is called the Google Mobile Ads SDK. And you can find the full documentation at the developers.google.com/admob. And basically, in the next slides, I will show you the few steps you need to go through to implement it in your app. I will take Android as an example, but the general principles will apply also to iOS. So basically, to get started, what you need to do is to update 3 files. So those are configuration files. If you're an Android developer, you're probably familiar with them. If you're not an Android developer, it's okay, because basically you just need to copy and paste those few lines of code, and they will just tell your app that you want to use the Google Mobile Ads SDK. The block on the bottom right is here to indicate that you want to link the app you have claimed in your AdMob app and connect it to the code you are writing. So basically in AdMob, you have a list of apps that you've claimed. You have all your games, and each of those games have an ID. And this ID, you need to give it to your developer so they can copy and paste it in the right place. But once you do that, you only do it once, so you can really forget about those 3 configuration files after the first initialization. So this was configuration file. This is actual code that you need to do. So it's basically saying to our mobile ads SDK that you want it to initialize itself. And it will do a call to our server, retrieve some configuration that you set up in AdMob to make sure we are ready to process your ad request later on. And you can actually wait for a callback call called on initialization complete. So it basically does what it says. So it will call you back whenever the initialization is complete. So we are only talking about a matter of a second or so, basically just making the network round trip be between your app and our server to give you back the list of configuration we want you to have in the app. So yeah, basically that's it for the initial configuration and initialization. When you're done with those 2 steps, you can finally load ads. And Cyprien mentioned different formats. We have many different formats. They each have their way of being loaded into the apps. Today, we are going to focus on the most simple one, which is a banner. And basically, to load banners within your app, there are only two big steps. The first one is to create an ad unit in the Admob interface. Creating an ad unit is really like creating an entry point for your app into the Admob world. This is kind of the matching key we use between your code and the Admob interface. And behind the ad unit, you're able to set up, for example, mediations source, as Cyprien mentioned earlier. And you can use also those ad unit to issue reportings and understand the performance by ad unit. So typically you would have, for example, an ad unit for your game menu. You would have another one for the game over menu, for example. You would have a specific ad unit for interstitials, and you could have specific ad units depending on the moment in the app flow where you show the interstitial. So this is the first thing you need to do, and you do it in the Admob interface. It's quite simple. Let me see. Yeah, I do have the slides to show you how it's done. So basically, you go into your app, and there you have a button to actually add the ad unit. And the only settings that we're going to require from you is to name the ad unit, so we can identify it in the UI more easily, or in the reporting that you will issue later on. But basically, that's it. There are other parameters that are more advanced, but I won't go into those details now. We only require a name and a type of format, which is banner in our case. After you do that, you will see a screen giving you the ad unit ID that you just created. And you will copy and paste it and send it to your developers so they can integrate it in the app code. So here we have two blocks of code on the left and on the right. So the one on the left is actually a bit of code that is saying to Android how to render the app. So it's a kind of a layout file where you basically say, I want a button here, I want a logo here, etc., etc. And here you're just saying, well, I have all my elements, but I also want an ad. And you're basically copy and pasting. You can see it on the bottom, the ID you just got from Admob. You are also informing the app of the ad size that you want. So here you have the very standard banner size, and you are giving it a name to this place where you want an ad. So this is for the block on the left. It's really about setting up the layout of your of what is shown on the screen, basically. And on the right side, you have actual code, which is basically doing two things. The first one is retrieving the view you just created by its ID, which in our case is ad view. And then it's actually making and building an ad request and triggering it. So whenever you write this line of code and they are executed, our server will be called. So we call this an ad request because you're requesting an ad. Our server will do their magic and they will return you with an ad that will be automatically displayed in the place where you design it to be displayed. So yeah, that's basically it. And the result is really simple. You get an ad within your app screen. So basically, as I said, it's really simple. Don't need to focus about the technicalities today and the specific line of codes, but we saw it like under maybe 10 minutes, you can get started and have a first banner ads wherever you want in your app. Of course, we offer more control. If you want to create, for example, the ad view programmatically, this is also possible. You can change the size of the banner ad. We also have callback to let you know whenever the ad was, whenever you got a response from our server, so you can do other things. But really, the standard scenario, you have it here. It's only a couple of minutes to achieve. So this was like our baseline, our base implementation where you're showing an ad. But as Cyprien mentioned, A/B tests and experimenting with your user experience is super important in the world of mobile gaming monetization because user behavior are different from a country to another, from a type of game to another, and they also change over time. So you need to constantly challenge what you know of your user and actually experiment with new things every day. And A/B testing is here to do just that. For us at Google, it's also very critical. Like any feature that we develop or any bugs that we fix, we never release them to the entire cohort of user at the same time. We always do progressive rollout of features. So we start with a small percentage, and if everything goes well and we're happy with the result, we increase that percentage until we reach 100%. And this is really successful because it allows you to get real data from real user to inform your decisions. So you're no longer guessing or trying to find the truth in artificial numbers. You are getting real numbers, and you can make a decision. It's definitely easier to make a decision when you see like that 97% of your user prefer an implementation over another one. If you don't have this data, it's really difficult to make the call and make a decision. Also, it's a matter of safety because if you roll out new experiences, let's say you want to be a bit more aggressive in terms of ad exposure into your new game, but you're not too sure if people will actually like it. Well, you can safely roll out the variation of behavior to maybe 1 or 5% of your user base. You monitor the result for 1 or 2 weeks, and then you make the decision based on the actual number. And if it was successful, well, you can release it. If it's not successful, you can go back to thinking about other alternatives. So yeah, A/B testing super important. Today, I'm going to show you how you can use Firebase and Admob to actually A/B test your ads implementation. And as previously, it's not a long list of things to do. Basically, it starts with some initialization and one-off steps you need to make for each of your app. The first one is basically creating a Firebase project, claiming your app within Firebase, and then configure Firebase within your app. So it's kind of similar to what we did for Admob, except it's for Firebase this time. So of course, there are some difference between the two products. But I put the link to the documentation for Android, but you also have access to the iOS one. And I won't go into too much details because basically it's a matter of setting up some configuration and initialization code. So it's not really interesting for us today to go through the technicalities. The second step is a bit faster and also really critical because if you do only the first step, you only have a Firebase project and an Admob project, and they don't communicate together. You actually need to go into Admob and enable the link with Firebase. And you do that by going into the setting part of the UI. There you select your app and click on linked services, and you are able to enable the link with Firebase. Once you do that, you will need to wait for 24 48 hours between for the data to start flowing from one place to another. But yeah, it's all it is about, only setting up some configuration on the Firebase side and then enabling the link from the Admob side. And surprise, after those 24 and 48 hours, you actually start to get some interesting features enabled kind of automatically. So in Admob, you would see this nice card with user metric. So really quickly, after just enabling some stuff, you get automatic analytics data within Admob, which are super useful and already super informative. So what I like the most is the ad exposure per session. It gives you a sense of how many ads your users are actually seeing when they use your game. It's super important to monitor. And you also, of course, have retention metrics, number of user metrics, the average session duration, and of course also revenue type of data that takes into account the revenue you generate from the Admob platform. But you can also, by using what we call custom event, you can also declare your in-app purchase and have the impact of those in-app purchase on those numbers directly in Admob. So it's super useful, and really quickly you get this view, which is already pretty awesome if you ask me. But today we're going to go a bit further, and so it needs us to do a bit more work. We're going to set up our first A/B test. So A/B test is a feature within Admob, and it relies on other feature to be implemented. And today we're going to rely on the Firebase remote config feature that Cyprien introduced a bit earlier on. Basically, Firebase remote config is a way to send parameters and configuration remotely from the Firebase UI. So you can update any configuration, and then your app is able to retrieve this configuration and adapt its behavior depending on the parameters you are depending on the parameters the app is receiving from Firebase. So today we're going to do a remote config, which is going to let us test whether or not we should implement a new format, a new ad format, in a space where there is no ad at the moment in the app. So we are creating a remote config with one single parameter, which is called show new ad key. And the two values can be either true. So in this case, I want to show the ad, and in the other case, it will be false because I don't want to see to display the other ad. So the first step is basically to create these remote config parameters, and then to set up an A/B test based on these remote config parameters. Then when you enter the A/B test UI, the first thing you will need to fill in is the targeting of your A/B test. So in this case, we are targeting one of our Android app, and we are targeting a small percentage of users. So this 10% you're seeing on the screen, it means that we will take 10 out of 100 users of the app and expose them to either the A or the B variant of our test. So it means that the 90 other people won't be affected by the variation, and they won't see any impact in their daily usage of your game. Then we would select a goal for our A/B test. So here we're interested in the AdMob revenue, so the revenue you're getting from ads, and it will help you like analyze the revenue, the A/B test later on in the dashboard. Then we will select the different variants. So basically, as I said, we only have two values possible for our remote config parameters, either false or true. So the baseline is we don't change anything. So it's false, it remains false. And the variant one is actually we are going to show an ad. So we're setting the parameter to true. And of course, you could have more variants here. We only have two, but you could have many more. Then once you do that in the Firebase UI, you will have to update your app code to basically be able to retrieve those parameters regularly. So that's the first block of code where we are saying just fetch the new parameters every hour. You're seeing the 3,600 seconds interval, which is set in blue there. So it means we are fetching the parameters every hour. And then we have another function called fetch and activate that we call to update those parameters. And if we get an update on the parameter, we are calling our ad loading logic. And then in this ad loading logic, so this is your code. This is the code that exists already to load ads within your app. You are able to retrieve the parameter and make a decision based on the parameter value. So you can have different behavior based on the parameter value. So here we only have two possible values. So if the parameter is equal to true, then we want to show a new ad. If it's not equal to true, we won't show anything, or we show the type of format that was shown before the A/B test. So yeah, basically it's only a bit of a baseline code in the previous slide, and then a very specific code specific to your implementation, where you decide on different behavior based on the parameter value. And then after you do that and you launch the experiment and people are facing either the new formats or nothing, then you're able to see the result of the experiment of the A/B test in Firebase and see in terms of revenue if showing the new ad format was beneficial in terms of AdMob revenue. So if you're showing ads where there were not ads before, probably you're generating more revenue, but you can also study the impacts in terms of engagement, retention at several time frames. So it can really show you that maybe you're implementing a new ad format that gives you a lot of revenue during the first day, but then you lose the user because they were not happy with the experience. So you need to find a trade-off between the two. So if you're not happy with the results, maybe you can do another A/B test with other parameters, and it can really inform your decision and the way you are updating your app behavior. So yeah, thank you. That's it for me. Basically, I wanted to really show the baseline, the base scenario, first implementing a banner ad and then an A/B test by connecting both Firebase and Admob together, and show you how powerful it can be when you are basically updating and working on your app.
Very cool indeed. And yeah, thank you for that, Thomas. Really thorough step-by-step guide there. I think that's fantastic. That you should definitely take that as a blooming tutorial totally, which is great. And thanks for explaining it. There's a couple of points really on that. One thing that always used to freak us out is that when we say we got a game live on the store and we want to put AdMob inside that live game, how do we test that AdMob is working without calling live ads? Because I know that obviously we don't want to get done for click fraud and all of that, and we used to
Yeah.
panic about that. So can you let us know how we do that these days?
Yeah, sure. So we have two ways to do it. So in our doc, anytime you will learn about implementing new formats, you will see that we provide test ad units. So you don't have to use yours. You will call our AdMob account, and you will get one of those demo ads that I showed when we implemented the banner ads. So it can give you a sense of how the ad would look like. Another way to do it is to actually leverage a new feature that allows you to connect your device to your AdMob account and basically be able to access even troubleshooting tools, these kind of things. So you can basically test your app before releasing it by entering a specific mode, a test mode, where your traffic won't be accounted for.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that. Like I said, it's probably been 100 years since we did this, so it's all moved on a little bit. I was personally really curious about that. And the other thing I thought was really cool was the fact that you can add special. I don't remember what you called them exactly, but you can actually add. I'm going to call it events in to record in-app purchase sales as well.
Yeah,
So we get all your you essentially get all your revenue wrapped up
yeah,
within the AdMob dashboard, which I think is really
yeah.
neat to have. So everything's in front of you in terms of all your revenue there, and I think that's super solid. Yeah, that's really all I got on that. I thought everything was really clear for me. And certainly the AdMob slash Firebase product is super rounded now. And of course, it's quite mature as well. You guys have been running and improving this all well for the longest time now. I dread to think how old it is. I certainly don't want to show my age on this one. So I think what's all that's really left for me is to say thanks to you guys for doing that. And if there's any other sort of well, firstly, is there any sort of wrap up things that you think wasn't included in your presentation today that you would advise really someone new to AdMob? And of course, we want to know where we can reach out to you and thank you for doing it. So I guess we start with you first, Thomas, since you're next to me there. Anything you
Yeah.
want to add to that?
No, I think my message today was really like beyond going to the technicalities, the configuration files and code. I really want to highlight that you can achieve like pretty advanced use case using AdMob and Firebase together, and at a very fairly cheap implementation cost. And this is what amazes me the most about those two products is that you can really do nice things and really inform the way you're thinking about monetization and user experience by leverage those nice features, and it doesn't cost you much because the implementation is rather straightforward. So don't be afraid by all the documentation, by all the configuration files and line of code. It's actually not that difficult, and it can really help you drive your business.
Nice. And how about you, Cyprien?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on tests showed by Thomas, and wanted to highlight that I really recommend to test anything. You will be very surprised by the results sometimes, and you will it will drive a lot in monetization. Something maybe you haven't expected at the beginning. It will have this impact. So I recommend everyone to test as much as they can with Firebase on different strategy for monetization.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we rely heavily data-driven decisions here at Homer, and I really like that you had the slider there, so you can change the cohort to like 10% or 20%, and it's really fascinating because I always choose the wrong one. Something that I think is going to really work obviously does bad, and then try something that try a different tactic that I think it's not going to work does well. So yeah, trust in the data, and it looked like your dashboard was really simple to use there. Like an idiot like me can understand it, which is really great. And I think what's the situation then when you've got when you're doing your A/B testing, just to wrap that bit up, when you've got a winner. Is it literally just say go live with A? Is there a button on the dashboard to do that?
Yeah, yeah, because basically it relies on the remote config feature under
Right.
the hood. So basically, it's just a matter of releasing that parameters that work the best for your in the context of your A/B test to like 100% of your user. So it's not difficult to go from testing to actually productionizing the value of this parameter.
Perfect. And just one more thing because I just thought of it. I know that it will depend on how many users you have, and in terms of how much traffic you're getting and all that kind of stuff. But how long do you think you should run an A/B test for? Just a ballpark. And I know it's a wide open question, but if I want to do an A/B test on anything right now, how long would you typically suggest we run it?
I'd say, like, if I had to give a very short answer, I'd say between 7 and 14 days. But
Yeah.
it really depends on the type of game and on the retention time frame that you're studying for the game you're releasing. So I would adapt the duration of the test to the time frame, the retention time frame I'm studying.
That's a great answer, and thank you. I know it's pretty horrible because how long's a piece of string? But yeah, I think a good week or two, depending on a ton of different factors, is a really good place to start. So, listen, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge. Thank you, Google, for sponsoring Homer Jam. We were thrilled to have you on board. Um, where can we reach out to you? Where's the best place to connect for anyone who's watching this on the replay or whatever to say, hey, Thomas, hey, Cyprien, thanks for coming on. Where's the best place to get hold of you guys and maybe ask some questions if they have some? So I guess we start with you, Thomas.
Yeah, you can either reach out to me through LinkedIn, and then I will redirect you to the right channel, or directly at my email if you want to. So that's Thomas Bocquet, everything stuck together, no spaces, at google.com.
Perfect. And Cyprien?
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly add something for the test before closing, if that's fine.
Sure.
Usually on Admob, we recommend to test for 2 weeks and not take the first week into account because the first couple of days the algorithm is learning, so it can have an impact on the performance of an ad unit.
Makes sense.
So
Perfect. No, thanks for putting that in there because it's important this stuff because when you start learning, you're just like, okay, well this is good. Like I don't know now. So I always like to ask the sort of stupid questions or the obvious questions because sometimes we just don't know, and it's hard to get an answer how long you should do it. So I appreciate that. Where can we find you, Cyprian?
On LinkedIn, you can contact me, or I will be also available on Discord and on my Discord. So
Cool.
you can ping me on the Jammer chat. I
Nice.
think I changed my name for Cyprien Delaporte, hashtag Google, hashtag Admob.
All right.
So you
Nice. We
should be
like it.
able to find me easily. And I will try to spend additional time during the month of August to reply any of your question regarding AdMob.
Perfect.
And
And we'll obviously, if you got any questions, you can also email me or jump on the Discord and ask that. And if you haven't done already, go on the Discord because you got the Google experts in there right now. Well, in a minute anyway, or for the month of August. So don't waste that opportunity to ask the questions. With all that said and done, I'm going to go and wrap things up for today. Once again, you guys, thank you so much for joining with me. Thank you for Google for sponsoring this Homer Jam. We're thrilled to have you on board. And yeah, I think that is all there is left to say is goodbye for now. And we'll see you again. So see you later, everybody. And thank you for joining with us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.